I've always viewed 10,000 Days as the bronze medalist in Tool's discography, and although I do stand by that take, it's no slight to the album. 10,000 Days is still an incredible album and has some incredible lyricism packed in there when Maynard isn't recalling a trip at Area 51. Today, I'm going to attempt to explain to you the lyricism on this album and what makes it one of the greats in all of metal. Anyway, that's enough rambling. Let's hop right into the first track, and my favorite opener on any Tool album. Track 1, Vicarious. Vicarious, the word, is defined as experienced in the imagination through the feelings or actions of another person, experiencing something as you watch someone else go through it. The song on the surface is a critique on the normalization of violence within our society. Eye on the TV, because tragedy thrills me. The song then dives into several examples of the death we are so numb to. A wife killed by her husband is not something I would be shocked to see on the news, and that kind of sucks. Something about misfortune stimulates us as a society, as long as that misfortune isn't happening to us. The narrator remarks on the satisfaction that death brings him. It's hard to watch the news and really empathize for the local gas station clerk who was shot and killed because of the sheer amount of those stories out there. The numbness to death terrifies the narrator, as he is not alone in these feelings. Just as someone would attempt to correct him, that very same person would not bat an eye of hearing a gruesome murder on the news. Death has become such a normality that it's hard to care sometimes. The song presents the idea that humans today aren't just numb to violence, but now feed off of the violence in order to enhance our own sense of security, hence the title of the song, Vicarious. Now you may be thinking, that's terrible. Not me though. Yeah, you too. It's not your fault, but you probably do the same thing. The song then goes on to confirm the fears you have. This violence isn't going anywhere. War's not going anywhere. Murder's not going anywhere. TV shows aren't going to stop killing characters, and why the hell would they? Think of a show like The Boys. Is the show itself well written? I would lean towards yes, but it's not particularly a masterpiece. It's no Breaking Bad. The show thrives on shock value and gore to captivate the viewers. They'll show the most gruesome death conceivable to the most lovable character ever seen in a show, and the viewer might even yell out. Maybe they'll even feel disgust. Was that necessary? And on that exact same train of thought, we'll throw on the next episode. A lot of shows these days feed off violence, but I find The Boys to be the most abhorrent example. Back to the track, right after the bridge concludes, two newscasters can be heard very low in the mix. One reports a father shot by his own son, and the other recounts a woman poisoning her husband. I never even noticed this until I made this video, so it's kind of sick. The narrator then addresses the listener. It's incredibly naive to truly believe that people are inherently good, when violence serves to satisfy so many of us. The true nature of the universe is one of violence and hostility, down to the very stars and the planets. We as people are programmed by the very universe to feed off of violence. Much better you than I. Incredible opener. Track 2, Jambai. The name Jambai is a reference to the genie from Pee-wee's Playhouse, whatever the fuck that is. On the surface, the song is about wishing for a loved one to stay with you. The song begins with the narrator sitting at the top of the world, the top of the King's Mountain, looking back on his life as he realizes that none of this was worth it. If he could, he would give this all up if he had known that he would lose her someday. The song is the first in the album that feels like a direct reference to Maynard's mother, Judith Marie. To quickly summarize her story, Judith suffered from a cerebral hemorrhage when Maynard was just 11 years old. She stayed paralyzed until her death, around 10,000 days later. Throughout the entire paralysis, she had faith that God would one day come and save her, and that bothered Maynard immensely. How could she continue to believe for over 27 years? And if there is a God, how could that God not help someone he viewed as so pure? Back to the track, the narrator discusses the depressed state that he has found himself in. As he begins to drown in the darkness, an unnamed person saves him and lifts him out of that darkness. Perhaps his mother, or maybe someone completely different. He still admits that if he could, he would wish this all away. Even this newfound person. The narrator then describes the lengths he went to achieve his dreams. He prayed and he begged and he did everything he could until eventually he succeeded in every way he could. He had the money, he had the fame, and yet, for more time with his mother, he would wish all of that away. And what is life without the people close to us? He repeats his desire to give everything up for one more day with her. He then says, if once it needs divide me, then I might as well be gone. Sit with that for a second. What are we as people besides our wants and needs? The bridge then begins as the narrator asks the sun to shine down upon him. Shine until the two become one, the two being two halves of a broken person. He then asks the sun to light the path forward for him, to show him how to go on, as he says, light our way, benevolent sun. The song's conclusion begins with the phrase, breathe, in union, so as one, survive. He attempts to be whole again, although now missing a piece of himself. a piece of himself that died with his mother. A far more beautiful song than I ever gave it credit for. Track 3, Wings for Marie, Part 1. Wings for Marie is the first part of the two-part track, 10,000 Days. I would say easily the saddest songs in Tool's entire discography. The songs serve as a farewell for Maynard to his mother after her 10,000-day long battle with paralysis. The song begins with Maynard speaking to his mother. "You believed in me, in movements none could see." Although he clearly viewed his mother's connection to God in an incredibly negative light, through God, his mother was able to see something within him, something no one else could see. He describes her as a passionate person, uncompromised and open, with light in her eyes, until she was immobilized. He saw her break down and saw the toll that the paralysis had taken on his mother, not just physically, but mentally. "And yet it was you who prayed for me, even while paralyzed, even while depressed, even as she watched her life go by. She prayed for her son's well-being." Really shows Judith's character. The narrator then questions whether or not he's worthy of being the son of someone so pure, someone he describes as an angel. It hurts to hear him describe himself as unworthy of his own mother, but it really hammers home the light that he sees his mother in. The first song ends with the death of Judith, as he begins to write her eulogy. She never told a lie. Well, might have told a lie, but never lived one. Didn't have a life, but surely saved one. He reassures his mother that he's all right and accepts that it's time to let her go. An incredibly solemn farewell leading into the second act. Track 4, 10,000 Days. The track begins with Maynard's resentment towards his mother's faith becoming a bit more clear. He resents the churchgoers that pretend to know a fraction of Jesus' pain as they live their peaceful lives, unlike his mother. In the second verse, we arrive at Judith's funeral. He's annoyed by the churchgoers' sympathy as he feels it's false. They didn't care for his mother, they pretend to, as it aligns with their faith. He labels them as the collective Judas, as in people who betray Jesus' teachings. He says his farewells as his mother finds what he describes as her home. He resents the average Christian for talking the talk but never walking the walk, constantly sinning but alleging their faith to Jesus. It reached the point that he couldn't watch his mother suffer any longer. 10,000 days in the fire is long enough. You're going home. He feels his mother's faith eclipses everyone else's. She has earned the right to stand at the gates of heaven and ascend. It's time now. My time now. Give me my wings. Throughout this whole song, Maynard describes his mother as this incredibly holy being, unparalleled by anyone else. He describes her as the light and the way, a direct comparison to how Jesus was described in the Bible. He's confident that these fake Christians will not reach heaven and will only ever read about the Lord they swear their allegiance to. And although his mother held this faith, Maynard was always set in his ways. He never believed in the Christian God, but seeing his mother's unwavering faith, he began to question those beliefs. No amount of books, no amount of speeches, no amount of church visits or miracles could prove to him the existence of God. But his mother's faith, through misery, was able to shake those very beliefs. The burden of proof was tossed upon the non-believers. He realizes that through her, he was able to question the existence of God. It was through her eyes that God was witnessed, and although he never saw it himself, he could see that light within her. The song concludes with Maynard back in the hospital, under the cold fluorescent lights. I'm just going to let these next lyrics speak for themselves. Please forgive this bold suggestion. Should you see your Maker's face tonight, look him in the eye and tell him, I never lived a lie, never took a life, but surely saved one. Hallelujah. It's time for you to bring me home. Now at this point you should be bawling like a baby, and thus concludes the title track, 10,000 Days. What a listening experience. Track 5, The Pot. Hope you enjoyed bawling your eyes out over a son's tribute to his mother, because now we're talking about weed. I've never really been able to wrap my head around this song, so let's start off with Maynard's own thoughts from an interview. He said, to me, that's one of the examples of some of our earlier energy blending with our more mature energy, and kind of nods to our influences over the years. I feel like we really kind of struggle to make sure that all four of us shine as best as we can on everything we do to exhaustion. But I feel like this one is one of the ones that felt not effortless, but fresh and consciously effortless, if that makes sense. It just captures that vibe that I think, if you're going to play a song for people to kind of get them into our band, I don't think you should start with a 27-minute one. Focus on the pot. That'll be your introduction to all the other possibilities that happen in this project. From that, I gathered that the pod is a song intended to be easily digestible and not 14 layers deep with poetry. In terms of the lyrical meaning, the song is about the government and the corruption that resides within it. It's an attempt to make the listener aware of the corruption dominating the political world and hopefully inspiring them to do something. The song was also used as a protest to a judge that sent many pot smokers to jail for their first offenses. This same judge was later discovered doing heroin. So, I mean, you never know with these political assholes. Track 6, Lipon Conjuring. An interlude track here, and the first of a trilogy of tracks. No lyrics in this one at all, but the title itself implies that the sounds heard throughout the song are from a ritual of the Lipan Apache people, a ritual that likely involved the use of psychedelic drugs. Track 7, Lost Keys, Blame Hoffman. The second interlude in the build-up for track 8, Lost Keys, is a skit of some sort. The title of the song, or at least the Blame Hoffman part, is in reference to Albert Hoffman, a Swiss scientist known best for being the first person to ever take LSD. He also created the name for psychedelic mushrooms, being psilocybin and psilocin. As for the skit itself, it is a doctor and a nurse speaking outside the room of an unknown patient, discussing how strange the scenario is. The doctor himself, revealed to be named Dr. Watson, is an homage to the late John B. Watson, who studied behavioralism, which is the study of behavior's control over people. The patient has nothing wrong with him, has no name, no ID, and won't speak to anybody. The pair enter the room and are ready to help. They say to the man, "What happened? Tell me everything," leading into my personal favorite track on the album. Track 8, Rosetta Stoned. Alrighty then. Picture this, if you will, is a sentence that will give me chills no matter how many times I hear it. Yeah, this song has 2 interludes before it, but the build-up all comes beautifully together right here. As for the title, it is a play on the art piece called the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone is a stone discovered in Egypt back in 1799 that allowed for researchers to translate the Egyptian hieroglyphics. The stone itself allowed them to uncover over 1,400 years of previously inaccessible information. The title Rosetta Stoned implies that the key for this young man to evolve as a person and unlock the secrets of the world may be locked behind psychedelics. The song itself tells the story of the patient's LSD or perhaps DMT trip in Area 51. Eventually, he is picked up by aliens who inform him that he is in fact the chosen one. He describes his experience with the aliens as he tries to convince everyone around him that this all really happened. The aliens prepare to deliver to him a message of hope for those who choose to hear it, and a warning for those who do not. If only he didn't forget his pen. Unable to write it down, he completely forgot the message. That's it. Lyrically not the deepest song, but goddamn do I love it. Track 9, Intention. The song begins by describing our very birth. Maynard believes that our true nature is good, and that it is throughout our life experiences that we become corrupted by greed and selfish desires, completely flipping on his opinion from track 1. He then describes the beginning of time, the Stone Age, as a time where this greed wasn't felt. It's only through the possession of things that we feel a need to protect them. We see strangers as enemies and competitors when in reality, they're not too different from you and I. Then, the invention of fire is described. Although its original intent was pure, fire became a weapon for the selfish to gain control. The song concludes with the revelation that we return just as we came in. We are born just as we die. Just as the lights are turned on, the lights will turn off, and you will return to that state of no desire. Incredibly beautiful track, serving as a segue into the final song of the album. Track 10, Right in 2. Perhaps the most lyrically intense song on the album, Right in 2 serves as the album's closer, and the band's closer for over 13 years. The final message they left prior to Fear Inoculum. The song begins with an angel asking himself a question. Why did God give humans free will? Just so they could fight, kill, and destroy the world God gave them? The band tells us that there's enough to go around, enough of whatever you want. The universe has no finite number of resources. The title of the song is in reference to the biblical story of King Solomon. I'm going to abridge this story a bit so I don't get age restricted on this video. Look it up if you want the real story. 2 women were arguing over a necklace, both claiming to be the necklace's owner. Solomon grabbed a sword and said he would cut the necklace in half, giving one half to each woman. The first woman resigned and agreed to give up the necklace as long as it wasn't cut in half, while the second woman agreed to cut the necklace in half. Solomon realized that the real owner was the woman who agreed to give up the necklace and return the necklace to her. It implies that we, as people, are the second woman. We want what we want, regardless of who it belongs to. We would rather see our desires destroyed than given to someone else. It makes you think. Back to the song, the second verse returns to the angels, questioning why people do what they do when granted an infinite universe to enjoy. The song tackles the idea that we really have no business still being here. It's pretty wild to think that we haven't nuked each other off of the planet. The song then delivers the most beautiful line on the entire album and perhaps in Tool's discography. Repugnant is a creature who would squander the ability to lift an eye to heaven, conscious of his fleeting time here. What a rare gift we have received. We are put on this earth and allowed to do whatever the hell we want. We were given the tools to do anything that we really put our mind to. And yet what we do is hurt one another. We as a human race have become so incredibly divided that it's almost laughable to think about where we came from. As we divide everything equally, we lose a piece of our unity each time, until we run out of things to divide. We fight and we fight for the larger piece of the pie, but to no avail. Back to the angels, they can't even understand anymore, as they wonder when the fighting will end. Will it ever end? Probably not. Incredibly beautiful song. Track 11, Viginti Trace. The title of the song is Latin for the number 23. If you're on Spotify or Apple Music, the song appears to have no lyrics, but this actually isn't the case. The lyrics are, however, entirely in Latin. Translated, they are as follows. 1 infinity. The horror begins in autumn. This is your trial, which tries your might. 23 steps to total power. The lyrics themselves are a Nostradamus quote. The horror mention refers to the end of the world, as the Christians call it. The trial referred to is the time after the horror, in which the Antichrist will deliver a time of absolute terror. Why autumn? I don't know. Why 23? I don't know. Why would they conclude an album with an ambient track? Again, I don't know. And with that, we have completed our lyrical analysis of 10,000 Days, another one of Tool's greatest albums. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed. Anima video coming soon. I hope to see you there. Peace.